Just let me know. Good afternoon. The Committee on Transportation is going into its hearing notice of Wednesday, June 24th at 1:30 p.m. Members, thank you for your attendance today. And for those of you out there in the audience, the visiting audience on YouTube, just to let you know that we are doing something out of the ordinary. And COVID-19 has affected us here at the Capitol, and we're so sorry that we can't have you here in person to participate in this hearing. However, the committee is taking up some of its matters that have been deferred for some time now, and we'll go into our agenda. Members, just for your information, we may need to take up HB 1676, and end of calendar is fine with you folks. We've just received more testimony and I'd like to review that as well. So we'll proceed with House Bill 2002, and this is relating to transportation network companies, and this establishes requirements and permitting procedures for transportation network companies operating in the state. And this makes permanent insurance requirements for transportation network companies and transportation network drivers. We have many testimony, and for those who have are not aware out in the listening audience, is that most of the testimony that we've received, members as well, are to the current measure on the bill, and their testimonies are submitted accordingly, but we will, as we proceed, we will be making changes to this measure. We do have testimony from the Department of Transportation. The Director Butai sends testimony in support. Testimony received in support as well from Shari Kajiwara, the Director, and this is testifying for the City and County of Honolulu, Department of Customer Services. We have testimony from the Uber Technologies, Inc., Bob Toyofuku, and in comments in opposition, we have Tracy Lee, Senior Public Policy Manager of Lyft, in support. Gary Sakakita testifying for Hawaii Transportation Association in support. Testifying in opposition is Robert Savai, Roy Fund. In late testimonies have come in from two supports of Kathleen Sickard, individuals, and John Phillips. Are you going to make the recommendation here on this one right now?
Are you ready to vote after each one?
Maybe so. Maybe so. Okay, can I make the take in? Okay, members, we're going to go back to our original procedure that we did after each bill. I think we'd like to do decision making, and so we can continue on with the other measures as well. With regards to HB 2002, the chair's recommendation is replacing the language from the Senate Companion SB 2808, the Senate Draft 1, which we've received testimonies regarding the favor of this particular Senate draft. And so we're going to insert the permit fee of up to $25,000 and the effect of the date to upon approval and any technical amendments with this measure. Any discussion, members? And for the general public as well, the Senate bill has been heard previously before the legislature went into recess. Any comments, members? Hearing none, Senator Shimabuhuro, will you take the votes on this measure?
Do I have vote sheets?
Vote sheets.
You might need them. Okay. Okay.
Okay, Chair's recommendation on House Bill 2002, House Draft 2, with passing with amendments. Okay, and the chair votes aye.
Aye. Senator English is excused. Senator Shimabukuro, aye. Senator Favela.
Aye.
Measure is adopted.
Okay. Thank you, members. We'll proceed then with HB 2750, and this is relating to monetary obligations. This prohibits the imposition of restrictions on a person's ability to obtain or renew a driver's license or to register, renew the registration of, or transfer or receive title to a motor vehicle as a consequence of unpaid monetary obligations under certain circumstances. And this allows certain individuals to petition the court for a driver's license or motor vehicle clearance. We have testimonies that came in to HB 2750. The Deputy Chief Court Administrator testifying for the State Judiciary with comments. Antoinette Lilly testifying for the Office of Public Defender in support. Office of Hawaiian Affairs sends comments. Justin Kohler, the prosecuting attorney for the County of Kauai in support, testifying for Health and Harm Reduction Center. Nikos Laverens, Development and Policy Manager. Mandy Fernandez, the Policy Director for ACLU in support. Gary Hooser of Pono Hawaii Initiative in support. And the rest are all in support, and I'll read their names. Testifying for Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks Kathleen Algier, Ryan Kusumoto, testifying for Parents and Children's Together, Amy Agbayani for Hawaii Friends of Civil Rights, Kat Rady for Community Alliance on Prisons, Sherilyn Martin testifying for Smart Justice, and we have the LGBT caucus of the Democratic Party in support, testifying for We Are One as well in support, and that came from Joseph Cohn, and many individuals, Marcella Boido, and she's the Hawaii Judiciary Interpreter. Sue Ellen Barton, June Shin, Diane DiMaria, Marty Sunderland, Colleen Bannock, Pete Wilson, Raylene Yeomans, Andrea Staley, Daniel Mistak, Jan Jenkins, Stephen Costa, Barbara Best, Ezra Levinson, Barbara Polk, Honolulu, Hawaii NAACP, Kelly Toyama, Christian Grado, Fern Holland, Jacqueline Esser, Jennifer Brown, Diana Bethel, Jane Owl, Lonnie Prunes, Cornelia Thomas, Rebecca Bradlow, Aduliao Tele, R. Siciliano, Travis Mann, Rebecca Bradlow, Carrie Ann Shirota, Lexi Figueroa, Kelly, Keli'i Tyler Dos Santos Tam, Katie Rank. And those sent testimonies in support of HB 2750. Chairs, members, the chair's recommendation with regards to this measure, HB 2750, House Draft 2, we'd like to make an amendment to this measure. Is this using the Senate language or just these?
We're using the house number.
We're using the House language. Okay, okay. With this measure, Chair's recommendation then is to use this measure on the House Draft 2 and with just the following amendments, and the measure seems like, I think, is okay with the search on language, legal check. So we'll just make amendments to number 1 is effect the date to September 1st, 2020, and any other technical amendments. Members, any questions? And I know both of you have been in support of this measure. You have many requests and testimonies from people in your district, I'm sure, and with the effect of COVID as well, this has, I think this bill is more important at this time. So having said that, Senator Shimabukuro, will you take the vote?
All right.
Chair votes aye.
Okay. Senator English excused. Senator Shimabukuro, aye. Senator Favela.
Aye.
Okay, adopted.
Thank you. We'll then go back to the first item on the agenda, which is House Bill 1676, House Draft 1, and this is relating to highway safety. And this establishes a 3-year photo red light imaging detector system pilot program. This authorizes any affected county to administer the photo red light imaging detector system pilot program. It also establishes the detector systems pilot program account as a special account within the general fund. Requires proceed of fines expended in the county from which they were collected for operation of the photo red light imaging detector systems pilot program. And members, you do know this particular bill has been before the legislature. I would think maybe I've been here 16 years and probably maybe have been in the books for beyond that. So folks in the communities have looked forward to us at least addressing many of our incidences on our highways, and this measure is a step in the right direction. The fires list. Thank you. Okay, lots of support as well. We have testimony in support from the Director of Transportation, Jay Butai. In support, Hawaii State Judiciary sends comments from Calvin Ching, the Deputy Court Administrator, and there's support from the Disability and Communication Access Board, Kirby Shaw testifying for Strategic Highway Safety Plan, Carrie Bennis in support. In opposition, the Office of Public Defender. I will read the names of all of those in support. Department of Transportation Services from the City and County of Honolulu, Honolulu Police Department, Maui Police Department, MAD Hawaii, Hawai'i Cycling League, Path People's Advocacy for Trails Hawaii, Blue Zones Project, Hawaii Public Health Institute, Mr. John Rogers sends comments in support. Larry Geller, Alan Carson, Dabney Go, Dorothy Sunil, Molly Mamaril, Carl Takamura, Catherine Weldon, Daniel Dennison, Randolph Slayton, Anthony Chang, Rain Kauhi, Mike Manago, Dean Masai, Michael Picard, Christopher Tipton, David Kingdon, Nicholas Manago, Noel Wright, Joshua Powell, Randy Moore, Daphne Manago, Stephen Davidson, Jeanette Manago, Todd Bolanger, Jonathan Lott, Laurie McCarney. All in support. Chair's recommendation. I don't know where this
And then
one
calling a recess for the debate.
is. Okay, members, chair will call for a short recess to deliberate our decision making. Okay. But the changes to the Senate version as well, including okay, good afternoon. The Committee on Transportation then is getting back to its committee hearing, and members, and for those in the general public, we are on House Bill 1676, and this is the red light camera bill. The chair's recommendation is we will be using the Senate draft that we heard previously, and the Department of Transportation Highway Division has additional recommendations to be made. And because we're having some technical difficulties here with the internet, so I'm going to read from the Highways Division recommendations. The further recommendations submitted by Ed Sniffen, the Deputy Director of DOT, makes changing all references to the word operator of the motor to reflect the registered owner of the motor vehicle instead. Is that the same one? Okay. And we're removing the language of sensors buried under the crosswalks as new technology may exist. The county's vendor should mail the notice of traffic infraction instead of using county staff. Registered owner is held strictly liable for the red light violation by creating a new subsection under 291C-32D. We're deleting section 11 in regards to liability for rental or U-drives, such that the registered owner of a rental or a U-drive vehicle is liable. We're removing the this guy keeps on. Okay. We're removing the prima facie evidence portion of the bill, section 10, subsection A, and move the remaining subsection B up to the proceeding section 9 regarding the registered owner's responsibility for notice of infraction. We're changing the postmark date for the notice of infractions from 72 hours to 10 calendar days. We're inserting language to clarify that nothing in this act shall be deemed to override or supersede any provision of Chapter 291D of the HRS. We'd like to reduce program costs. All notices of traffic infraction should be sent via regular mail instead of certified or registered mail. Okay, all right. So these are the amendments that will go into House Bill 1676, House Draft 1, relating to highway safety. And this is the three-year photo red light imaging detector system pilot program. And members, we certainly would like to thank DOT Highways and the task force that worked on this for the last year. And this is pretty much what their recommendations are. So having said that, does this have to go into?
That needs to be read, yeah.
Okay, all right. This addition. Okay, having read the amendments, the Transportation Committee also will replace the current language, as I did mention, with the language in the Senate Bill 2994, Senate Draft 2, and per the DOT's testimony with the additional changes that I have read into the record, will insert unauthorized disclosure, a fine of $97, and will remove the appropriation language and the effective date upon approval, and further for technical amendments. That's a lot, members. And so having said that, we're just anxious to have this bill move forward. We've waited many years for us to do something for our highway safety programs. So the chair's recommendation is to move this measure with amendments. Any discussion? Hearing none, Senator Shimabukuro for the votes. The chair votes aye.
Thank you. Senator English excused. Senator Shimabukuro is aye. Senator Favela.
Aye.
Okay, measure adopted.
Okay, we're going to take a short recess. We will be taking in the last measure. Don't leave, Senator Favela. We have the important measure, House Bill 2475. We'll take a short recess. On transportation is back in order on this agenda item of today, Wednesday, June 24th. And chairs, I think I did ask for a recess, so the first agenda item will adjourn for that, for the record. The Committee on Transportation is going into its 1:40 p.m. agenda. Thanks for all those that have been patient with us today. We will be taking up House Bill 2475. This is House Draft 1 and relating to cargo carriers. This authorizes the Public Utilities Commission to address any situation where the condition of a regulated water carrier of cargo may result in disruption, reduction, or cessation of essential services. This amends the basis upon which the Commission may issue a certificate of public convenience and necessity to an applicant seeking authority to serve as a water carrier, as a regulated water carrier. And members, as indicated earlier, we will be making drastic amendments to this measure. And I'd like to, because of the attendance, the public's not being here in attendance and not familiar with the proposed SD1, I'd like to, if you allow the chair, to read some contents of the explanation of this measure, just to have some transparency. First off, this measure ensures affordable and reliable inter-island cargo service throughout Hawaii. Maintaining affordable and reliable inter-island cargo transportation service is paramount in protecting the public interest. Inter-island shipping is a lifeline on which many residents and businesses depend, particularly those on the neighbor islands. As such, water carrier services are essential for health, welfare, and safety of residents and visitors in the state of Hawaii. The Hawaii legislature has recognized the public interest in affordable and reliable inter-island water transportation in the state. Hawaii Revised Statute Section 271G-2 establishes the state's policy of preserving for the public the full benefit and use of the waterways, consistent with the public safety and the needs of commerce, including promoting safe, adequate, economical, and efficient service among carriers. It encourages the establishment and maintenance of reasonable rates and charges for transportation and related accessorial service, preventing unjust discrimination, undue preference or advantage, or unfair or destructive competitive practices, and developing, coordinating, and preserving a sound transportation system by water. While there are several water carriers providing transportation services between Hawaii and the mainland and to other countries, Young Brothers LLC is the sole water carrier providing cargo transport services between the islands in Hawaii through its commission-granted Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity, known as CPCN. Background on the Young Brothers' financial condition. The Public Utilities Commission, or as we know as PUC, previously approved Young Brothers' requested rate increases as a result of Young Brothers' agreed upon settlements with the consumer advocate in 2016 and again in 2018. Nevertheless, YB informed the PUC in a May 26, 2020 letter of its extremely dire financial situation, liquidity crisis, and a potential suspension of service to certain islands or for certain cargo types available on its website. When comparing Young Brothers' 2015 financial results to its 2020 budget, Young Brothers' revenues have increased by just 0.5%, while expenses have increased more than 26% over the same time period. Prior to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the company initially forecasted a loss of $12.3 million in 2020, but Young Brothers has stated that it is now projecting a loss of approximately $25 million through the end of 2020 as a result of the pandemic. Young Brothers' May 29, 2020 letter filed in docket number 2020-0084. Young Brothers has also stated that with its cost containment efforts, including reductions to its sailing schedule, tug workforce, and other costs, it only expects to save approximately an additional $7 million through the remainder of 2020. Additionally, Young Brothers' parent company, Saltchuk Resources, Inc., informed Young Brothers that it would not provide Young Brothers with additional infusions of cash after May 30th, 2020. Thus, Young Brothers has stated that it expects that with continued revenue losses and the absence of another funding source, it will be unable to meet its expense obligations and will be forced to consider suspending services. And this is the letter of Young Brothers, May 29, 2020, filed in docket number 2020-084. Young Brothers has sought to obtain $25 million in CARES Act funding from the governor and the state legislature, which it stated it will help sustain its operations through the end of the year. The PUC emergency investigation docket number 2020-0084. The commission is currently conducting an emergency investigation regarding the financial condition of Young Brothers following Young Brothers' May 26 letter notifying the Commission of its liquidity crisis, the dire financial situation, and potential suspension of operations. Given the company's stated financial condition, it is prudent to provide additional flexibility and regulatory options to ensure affordable and reliable water carrier services are maintained throughout the state. The Commission held a status conference on June 10th, 2020, where Young Brothers responded to Commission and consumer advocate questions about Young Brothers' request for $25 million in CARES funding, Young Brothers' exploration of additional funding sources, its cost-cutting measures, and its customer communications and future plans regarding its services, the sailing schedules, the shipment of less than container load cargo, and so forth. Young Brothers stated on June 10, 2020, that it was in the early stages of exploring potential additional sources of outside funding if it were not able to receive the $25 million in CARES Act funding. Young Brothers has stated that it intends to file a request for temporary emergency rate relief and a request to defer its COVID-related costs in the PUC's emergency investigation docket. The Commission is highly concerned about Young Brothers' current financial condition and is using the emergency investigation docket to explore all possible options for the continuation of safe, reliable water carrier service in the state as quickly evolving information about those options becomes available. The summary of proposed changes in this measure, House Bill 2475, House Draft 1, is this proposed Senate Draft 1. The proposed Senate Draft 1 would amend or create 4 sections of Hawaii revised statutes under Chapter 271-G, which refers to water carriers. Each of these sections is summarized below. The receivership. The proposed language allows the Commission to appoint a receiver. A receiver is a custodian or a trustee appointed to temporarily manage the business and control its assets, to take temporary action to ensure the continuation of service if a regulated water carrier is failing or at risk of failure. This safeguard would ensure that the Commission is able to effectively respond in the event that the continuation of inter-island shipping services is put at risk. The Commission currently has this authority for water and wastewater utilities under the HR Section 269-14.2. The language in House Bill 2475, proposed Senate Draft 1, would explicitly extend this authority to the water carriers. The Emergency Temporary Authority. The proposed draft extends the duration for which the Commission may grant water carriers temporary authority to operate in emergency situations. Currently, the Commission is permitted to grant such authority to a water carrier when there is an immediate and urgent need, and existing services are able to meet the need. This amendment would extend the maximum duration of this period further when deemed necessary and appropriate. The water carrier would be required to apply for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to provide service beyond the specified period. This amendment would give the Commission the flexibility required to allow new water carriers to fill any needs on a temporary basis that are unmet by existing water carriers and allow the Commission to complete a more thorough analysis of potential applicants through the process outlined in HRS Section 271G-10. The waiver of regulatory requirements. The proposed draft also provides the Commission with necessary regulatory flexibility by allowing the Commission to waive certain regulatory provisions after notice and hearing when in accordance with the public interest. This change would equip the Commission to act swiftly in protecting or restoring essential water carrier services. The Commission, in consultation with other state agencies, believes this flexibility may be necessary if young brothers seek external debt financing to fund their operations. Without such flexibility, the Commission's ability to quickly consider and implement possible solutions for the current situation would be restrained. Enabling competition for inter-island shipping services in the state. In addition, the proposed draft strikes provisions from Section 271G-10, the Hawaii revised statutes that restrict the Commission's ability to authorize new water carriers to enter services in Hawaii. If additional competition would be in the public interest, the Commission would be able to allow additional service providers to enter the market. Eliminating these barriers will allow the Commission to establish a new water carrier in a more timely manner if necessary. The public benefits of proposed statutory changes to this measure: maintaining continuous, affordable, and reliable water carrier services between islands, especially given the vital nature of this service for residents of the neighbor islands, is essential for Hawaii. The proposed changes in Senate Draft 1 would provide the PUC additional tools and flexibility to respond more effectively to potential short-term disruptions in water carrier service. Over the longer term, the bill would allow for new water carrier service providers when determined to be in the public interest. The authority provided in House Bill 2471, Senate Draft 1, will better prepare the state to address emergency situations and provide greater certainty that the needs of neighbor islands will be met by an affordable and reliable inter-island shipping service. Near-term benefits. In the near term, the public will benefit by being better prepared for emergency situations and reduce risk of an interruption in service. The provisions in the bill offer the following near-term benefits. First, the ability to appoint a receiver if necessary. The PUC can immediately place carrier in receivership if there is an imminent threat. Receivership would be a temporary action until a permanent solution is in place. Public will benefit from greater certainty in continuity of water carrier service. Secondly, the waiver of regulatory requirements if in the public interest. The PUC can grant temporary waiver from provisions in Chapter 271G. This will allow greater flexibility in addressing temporary emergencies. Currently, this may be necessary to allow a water carrier to use debt financing to offset its operating costs. And third, temporary authority to approve water carriers. The PUC will have additional flexibility to extend time period for a carrier to provide emergency service. This will also help assure continuity of service in the event of an emergency. And lastly, in medium-term and long-term benefits. In longer term, the public will benefit by the regulatory flexibility and options to introduce competition to the inter-island shipping market in Hawaii. First, the waiver of regulatory requirements if in the public interest. Over the medium term, the next 6 months, the PUC may need additional flexibility to address provisions of water service and would be unable to address statutory restrictions while the legislature is out of session. The waiver provision would allow temporary flexibility after public notice and hearing. And lastly, enabling additional service providers. And this is of interest, members. That's very important. The proposed changes would allow new service providers to enter market after demonstrating they are fit, willing, and able to provide service, and the proposed service is required. The public will benefit through competition where determined to be of the public interest and greater assurance of continued service. And members, we will be adding a part 2. And the part 2 will be adding, creating a structure to provide financial assistance to any inter-island water carrier of property holding a certificate of public convenience and necessity pursuant to HRS 271G of the Hawaii Waters Charter Law that has suffered significant financial harm due to the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Any assistance, whether a direct subsidy or some kind of a loan, will be subject to a number of conditions to ensure that any financial assistance provided to such inter-island water carrier of property are used by the water carrier for operating expenses. This measure will prohibit using such assistance for payments to any parent company or other affiliates of the same parent company, executive bonuses, profits for the water carrier to which assistance is being provided, or profits for any affiliated business of the water carrier. And lastly, the measure also requires that certain operations continue for ports serving the counties within the state, having a population of less than 500,000 people, including maintaining for the next year a minimum number of port calls, the continuing of certain services needed by Hawaii businesses and the general public, and encouraging good faith negotiations with livestock ranchers regarding standards for shipments. The maximum amount of financial, so members, this measure, if at all, is important that we move ahead, and it will ease many of the issues that's before the Public Utilities Commission and give additional regulatory process for their needs. So the chair, members, having said this, if there's any more comments that you'd like to share, the chair would like to ensure that we have some amendments adding this to the technical and upon approval. But having said that, the chair would like to read all those in support of this measure. I have followed this throughout the issues regarding the PUC and its investigation with regards to the Young Brothers, and those in support of making these adjustments comes from the Department of Transportation, the Director Jade Butai, testifying for support as well from the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, Dean Nishina, the Executive Director, and also testifying for the Hawaii Public Utilities Commission, James Griffin, Chair, as well as testifying for the State Department of Agriculture, Phyllis Geiser, Chairperson. And there are comments that has been received by Young Brothers, Jay Anna, the president, and in support, testifying for the United Public Workers, as well as support from the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council, testifying for the Molokai Chamber of Commerce as well, testifying with comments by Unite Here Local 5, in support to Tui Pulotu Organics LLC, in opposition, an individual member, council member Rebecca Villegas. Actually, we have new testimony in support from council member Tim Richards. In support, Riki Hokama, council member. And in opposition, Rain Kauhi, Suiso Garcia. And in support, Jean Ross Davis and Rosie Davis, and some comments from Josh Mason. And I would think in part members, some of the oppositions weren't aware that there is a Senate Draft 1. So having said that, I understand I have a minute to use this room. So members, I think we have done our work. So Senator Shimabukuro, the chair's recommendation is to pass HB 2475, House Draft 1, with amendments that would become Senate Draft 1. Any discussions? Okay, having no comments, chair's recommendation then is to pass with amendments. The chair votes aye.
Thank you. Senator English excused. Senator Shimabukuro, aye. Senator Vela. Mahalo. Passed.
Okay, thank you, members. This has been a very momentous day for us. We got the red light cameras. We have given authorities to increase the authority of the PUC. I'm really happy. We'd like to thank the PUC for their work, as well as the Department of Consumer Services, DCCA, as well, and to the Department of Transportation. We thank them for their services as well, and the cooperation we receive from everyone. Thank you and good day.